I'm going to teach you a quick and easy fried rice you can make for those busy weeknights. You don't want to make that big grocery store run. I'm missing quite a few ingredients I would usually use in a fried rice, so I think that's going to make this a little more fun, honestly. And I'll teach you some variations of what you could use instead, or I'll explain what I usually would use. But the core concept of fried rice, it's pretty simple. You need rice, a protein, some veggies, cook it on really high heat, try not to burn it, and you have fried rice. So it's not that complicated, and I'm going to explain that throughout the process. I'm going to go through the ingredients now for fried rice. Like I said, I'm missing a few ingredients, but as long as you have the core basics, you're going to be good. So most important, obviously, rice. White rice, if you're using white rice, you really want to use day-old white rice. Now, there's some kind of chemical, scientific term I cannot for the life of me remember, to be honest. I should have looked before I filmed this. If you figure out what it's called, let me know in the comments. But basically, the rice has to go through this process over a day. And once it hits the pan, it's going to be that much better. Brown rice is a little different. Brown rice you could cook and use pretty much instantly. Just stick it in the fridge for like an hour or so. Anyways, if you find out that term, let me know in the comments. If not, I'm going to Google it anyways. For my protein today, I'm using this stuff Pumfu. It's basically just pumpkin seeds and water. It's not bad. And we're gonna make it good. I'm using green onions. I'm using a bunch of green onions. I love green onions. I could use them in a lot of things. Using some button mushrooms, using some broccoli. If you wanna use the big stalk, just slice them really thin, you can use that too. You can make broccoli go a lot further than just using the florets. So also, I'm gonna be using avocado oil only because I don't have sesame oil. Like I said, I just came back from a trip, so my pantry's a little low. I'm gonna be using soy sauce today. If you want a little lower sodium, even lower than this one, you can use coconut aminos, which is pretty good. I'm using rice vinegar. This stuff is really tasty. It's really good. And I'm using fish sauce, which is my probably least favorite ingredient to smell, but it tastes delicious. I'm gonna be using adobo seasoning just to make it easy. It's like an all-purpose seasoning. If you don't wanna use this, feel free to make your own thing or use whatever other mix you got. I'm gonna use just a little brown sugar to help with the caramelization of this Pumfu. And we're also gonna use cornstarch to get a little nice crust on the Pumfu. Same thing, if you don't wanna use Pumfu, no problem. You can use, tofu, chicken, pork, beef, whatever you fancy. Shrimp's really good with it too. I'll use a little bit of salt, just regular salt. Sesame seeds, probably hit it with the end, towards the end. Maybe I'll hit it a little bit in the middle too since I don't have sesame oil, we'll see. And then same thing, I'm using egg whites because I don't have whole eggs. I didn't really make a big grocery run since I've been back from my trip, so like I said, I'm missing a few vital ingredients, but as long as you have a rice, oil, seasonings of some sort, some of these liquids, protein and veggies, you're good. And in the high heat pan, obviously. Now that we got our veggies washed, I'm gonna go ahead and cut these up and start heating up the pan over here. So I'm using this pan I got recently. As you can tell, it's not well seasoned yet. I think it was seasoned, I think I messed it up. But anyways, so it's not a traditional wok. I have one, but it's all junked up and I think I have to get a new one. This should do the trick. It's got the high walls, it's gonna get really hot, so it should do the trick. We'll see how it goes. Just cut up the broccoli into bite-sized pieces. And your bite might be different than mine, but typically it's pretty standard size, right? Some of these bigger ones with the longer stems, just make sure you slice them maybe a little smaller. Otherwise it's gonna be crunchy. They're not gonna cook the same as the other ones. Even this one's kind of got a little thick piece to it. I'll just cut a little smaller. It's gonna make it that much tastier of a recipe if we prep our veggies correctly. A lot of people don't take the time to really learn how to cut veggies correctly, but it's super important to the cooking process. Back when I cooked in the Coast Guard, we'd spend hours throughout the day prepping all sorts of vegetables and meats and everything else in between, but it's kind of relaxing, Especially when you learn what you're doing and you don't cut yourself as much. It's really fun. It's meditative, basically. I like using these little deli containers to store all my stuff, but whatever works for you is fine. Now, broccoli is always a pain in the ass to clean, but that's where the bench scraper comes in handy. Besides the chef knife, probably my favorite tool is a little bench scraper. does the trick. Next, we're gonna slice up our mushrooms. I'm using these button mushrooms. You could use whatever mushroom you'd like. There's all sorts of mushrooms. So we're just gonna cut them in half once, and then I think we'll just, yeah, cut them like this. Just like a little quarter inch or so. Remember in culinary school, a teacher would come around with a little, like, what's that called? A measuring stick? Yeah, come on, man. I get the process of it, right? You're learning the difference between an eighth, a quarter inch cut, a half inch cut, etc. But for home cooking, whatever works for you. As long as it's similar to size enough, the main purpose of cutting them the correct size is so they cook at the same speed. Otherwise, you're gonna have some super crispy mushrooms and some that are not cooked at all and they're raw in the middle. It's gonna throw off the whole dish. So I'm using a good amount of mushrooms. I'm trying to get away from writing down the specific amount of ingredients in these recipes because it's really all relative to your taste and your preference, and I also just don't like tracking exactly how much I'm cooking in a recipe. I don't know if I worded that right. I don't like tracking the exact ingredients because it's kind of just a pain in the ass, honestly. And I think a lot of good cooks cook from the heart. I think looking at recipes is helpful, but you should be able to cook off a recipe as well. Like, I don't know if that made sense either. You should get the gist of what I'm saying. Anyways, we're gonna be cutting up these green onions, about a quarter inch as well. And we're not gonna throw these in till the last minute because these are gonna cook really quick. Could even throw them on as a garnish, but I'll probably throw them in at the last minute and just mix them in. Gives a really nice aromatic flavor. It's kind of crazy. I almost always have garlic on hand. I don't have any on hand today. All right, next we're gonna cut up this pumpfu. Randomly picked this up at the store, honestly, not long ago. Maybe like last month I started trying it. It's not bad. You know, I wouldn't say I'd go out of my way because the flavor's so delicious or anything, but it's pretty high protein. All it is pumpkin seeds. And you can make it taste as good as you want it to because it's basically like a sponge for flavors. With this stuff, if you have chicken or beef or pork, whatever you're using, cut them into bite-sized pieces. Fun part too, if you're doing this for a meal prep, you can do, you know, all these multiple containers, but on a bigger scale, put them in the fridge, and then you can make a fresh stir fry every night or however you want to swing it, you know? Makes it a lot easier if you prep everything. So we've got all of our veggies prepped. Our white rice, as I said, I made yesterday, so it's a day old, which is very important. I think we'll use it all, but maybe not. Let's see. Yeah, we'll probably use it all. So it's nice and cold. Actually, it's room temperature now. Now we're gonna make up our, I guess what's kind of a marinade or a sauce, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, I'm using avocado today only because I don't have sesame oil. If you have sesame oil, definitely use it. It's way better. But this is fine. This will do the trick. I'm just going to eyeball it all. Want a good amount of soy sauce in here. Rice vinegar. Absolutely delicious. But don't use too much. Now fish sauce absolutely smells awful, but it tastes pretty damn amazing. We're just going to use a little fish sauce. That should do it. Probably used about a tablespoon or so. We don't want to use too much brown sugar, but probably use a couple tablespoons or so. Helps caramelize the, I was going to say the chicken, the pumpfu. Whatever protein you're using, it'll help caramelize it, as well as everything else. We'll add just a little bit of salt. It should be a little salty already from the soy sauce, but I did use the less sodium one. So we'll add some salt to it. Oh, that's what I forgot. Honey. Totally forgot. I'll try to remember to write honey down in the description. If I don't, if you're watching now, obviously, write it down for yourself. Or put it in the comments, maybe. We'll use some honey. This is going to really help it caramelize as well, and also give it that sweetness. What's fun about this, you can really spruce it up to make it whatever you want. You could add it in so many different things. For instance, we used to add in pineapples or oranges, or orange slices, or orange juice, whatever, something else sweet. and tangy, and it really amplifies this dish. Yeah, you can really just have fun with it. You can use it so many different things. All right, that honey is in here. We really want to make sure that it gets stirred in well. Now, it looks like our pan is heating up nicely. So we've got our mise en place over here. Mise en place just means all your shit's ready to go, basically. You want everything set up because this is a very fast dish. My pan was getting super hot. I took it off for a second just so I could come over and film this little station for you. Basically, we've got our oil ready to go. We've got our veggies. We've got our protein. We've got our sauce or marinade, and we've got our rice. So the steps to it, we're going to do the protein first, then we're going to add in the veggies, and then we're going to add in the rice. Fried rice is a pretty quick cooking process because you're cooking on such high heat. Just try not to burn it. Lower the heat a little if you have to, it's no big deal. Just try not to burn everything, especially in this first part where we're getting the protein nice and seared, and then we add in that mixture. All that sugar in that mixture from the soy sauce and from the brown sugar, obviously, it's gonna make that protein caramelize very quick. So just try not to burn it. If you do, just take the pan off the heat or lower the heat, no big deal. All right, as you can see, this pan is smoking up. I wish it was a little better seasoned, but after this meal, it should be a little. Now we're gonna add our oil first. Add a decent amount. Stir fry, you want a good amount of oil because we're gonna fry it. As the name dictates, fried rice. You should hear that nice sear. If you don't, your pan's not hot enough. We'll see how this stuff does on a hot pan. Hoping it doesn't stick too much like tofu does, but we'll see. No big deal if it does. Oh yeah, it's already sticking a little. Not too bad. So you want to get a nice little sear on your protein before you add in any of that mixture. Also season it up a couple times after you flip it. Basically, as soon as your protein hits the pan, it's starting to heat up, obviously. At some point, it'll start getting a nice little sear on it. Sooner than later, if your pan is nice and hot. That's hot. So like this guy's got a little sear on it already. Don't be afraid to let it sit a little bit. It's crazy that these are pumpkin seeds. It kind of blows my mind, to be completely honest. Pretty tasty, like as long as you make it tasty, you know? It's really not bad. Next, we're gonna add in our mixture, but remember, you can maybe kind of tell the honey, it's settled to the bottom, so make sure you give that a good stir before you pour it in. We're also not gonna pour all of this in at once. We're just gonna do it in increments. We'll see how much we actually need. So that's stirred up now. Now we gotta grab our cornstarch. Cornstarch should be a staple in your kitchen. If it's not, make it. So we're going to add in some cornstarch. What this is going to do, it's going to act as a bit of a binder, kind of like flour would, but even better. If we do it correctly, it should make it kind of poof up a little and crisp at the same time. And we want to get it kind of heated up. I almost think of it when I do this like making a bit of a roux. So hopefully some of that oil is still remaining in the pan, which it might not as much as usual because the pan's not that seasoned up. But anyways, it kind of binds to the protein, right? And now, once we start adding in our liquid, hopefully some magic happens. So without that cornstarch, all that liquid wouldn't have stuck to the protein as much. As you can see, it's already starting to get that nice caramelized color on it. I want to get it going a little more before we start throwing in our veggies. Whatever veggies you're cooking, you want to make sure you go the longest cook time first. So for us, it's going to be the broccoli. Say for instance, I'm using onions and peppers in this recipe, which obviously I'm not. We would want to cook the onions first because the onions we want to get nice and caramelized before we even add in our peppers. Oh yeah, this pan's going to be nice and fun to clean. Let's see if I can get my wife to clean it. As the broccoli starts cooking, maybe after a minute, minute and a half, starting to get that brighter green color, we're going to add in our mushrooms. Mushrooms do really great at absorbing the flavor, so we're going to add a little bit more liquid. Now, as you can see, it's all getting nice and steamy in there. Sticking to the bottom a little, which will be fun to clean, like I said, but oh well. Keep stirring it around. Might burn on the pan a little more than usual because I'm filming, but it's all good. See, the mushrooms are starting to get a little softer. Means they're getting nice and cooked as well. Throwing a little adobo seasoning, or whatever you're using. And we're going to get the rice in here in about a minute or two. We don't want to overcook our broccoli, otherwise it's going to get kind of mushy and not as tasty, you know? Pan's doing decent as a wok. Wok is definitely a better option though. But this isn't bad. We're going to add in some more oil, then we're going to throw in the rice into this nice hot spot. Just throw it all in there. Start breaking it up. Keep in mind too, you want to make sure you have your eggs on hand. Eventually we'll add those into the mix as well. Typically you'll see people add in, you know, frozen carrots, frozen peas, stuff like that. Perfectly fine. I just didn't have any on hand and just wanted to make it pretty simple amount of ingredients, you know. But very common stir-fry ingredient, tastes super well with it. I love adding in red peppers too, because it makes a really beautiful color. My wife is working in the next room, probably smelling this Jonesing come out. My dog probably is not, since I'm not using meat in this one. Otherwise, he usually would be sniffing around my heels begging for food. If you have a griddle at home, like I got a Blackstone out back, for instance, really fun to make a fried rice out there, but it's cold and nasty out today. I don't want to be outside. Keep it going a little longer before we add in our eggs. A little more liquid. I love that steam sound. One of the fun parts. We're going to make a little hole for some eggs to pour into. Make sure we get some oil in the middle so the eggs don't stick too bad. We're going to pour some eggs in the middle. And we're going to stir it all together. You'll see some people will make the scramble in the middle before stirring it. I prefer doing it like this because it really mixes into everything and it coats the fried rice really well, making a really nice bite, nice flavor to it. You'll see the eggs starting to cook a little bit already. So we can turn the heat off. It's going to be delicious. We can throw in our green onions soon. And we're going to throw in our sesame seeds right into it as well. We'll also top them with some sesame seeds. Sesame seeds. Just the look alone, those green onions really add to the dish, you know? All right, we're going to remove it from the heat. And this is just fantastic looking. It smells amazing too. I mean, it's just beautiful. Look at that. So tasty. I cannot wait to finish this video and dig in. You can see how the egg really coats everything in it. If you're not using any egg, you're missing out. I made a ton of fried rice. This might be like 3 or 4 servings for my wife and I. Makes a really good meal prep and it freezes really well too. Just let it cool down in the fridge before you do freeze it. It'll freeze much better. And yeah, have fun with it. Experiment with it. Mess around with it. See what you like. See what you don't like in it. If you enjoyed this recipe, give this video a like, subscribe to my channel. Till then, I'll see you next time.